Hello, I hope you are doing well. My name is Jaclyn Veno from Golosso Learning Solutions, and welcome to the Genuine Learning blog, your resource for timely and relevant updates from all the different standard setters. Do you want to know how NASBA is handling alternative practice structures in private equity? Well, you have come to the right place. As a NASBA-approved sponsor, GLS actually closely monitors all things NASBA to ensure that we stay in compliance. But during this blog, what we are going to do is break down this invitation to comment, just because there is a lot of interesting items that are in there. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So the formal title of this invitation to comment is Alternative Practice Structures in Private Equity, Considerations and Questions for the Different Boards of Accountancy. And this was issued in October of this year. So what was the goal of this invitation to comment? Why are we talking about this right now? It's really to educate all of the different state boards of accountancy across the country and policymakers about the benefits and challenges of private equity investments, and also to raise questions about how to actually go about protecting investors and the public interest. We all know that private equity investments are not going to be going anywhere anytime soon, and it is a trend that has a lot of benefits. It provides CPA firms with opportunities for growth and modernization and succession. But on the other side of that coin, it also raises questions about how the boards of accountancy can regulate this issue to ensure public protection. There's a good bit of unknowns that are associated with this trend. And in response to a lot of these questions, what the NASBA chair, Maria Caldwell, decided to do is she appointed the NASBA Private Equity Task Force. And what that task force is responsible for is evaluating the implications of private equity investments in the accounting profession, and also to identify ways to support all of the state boards of accountancy in their oversight responsibilities. Now, there are three key sections of this document. At the top, we have the background information and the introductory information, which are definitely super important. But the meat and potatoes of what we're going to cover during this blog is actually at the bottom of this slide. So basically what they're going to cover are three key topics and questions for the boards of accountancy on regulating private equity investments in CPA firms. So three key areas that they were really trying to focus on here. So once again, what are those three key topics? Well, we are actually going to break these down further on the next couple of slides, but we have independence and professional standards, incredibly important. We have disclosure and public understanding, also very important. And then we have regulatory oversight and enforcement. And you guessed it, also something that's an incredibly important topic. But without further ado, let's break down the first key topic, which is independence and professional standards. So what is this section about? Independence is absolutely the foundation of public trust for what we do as CPAs, and alternative practice structure models with private equity investments can create some increasingly complex relationships between the at-test firm and then the related non-attest entities. So what the boards of accountancy are encouraged to consider is whether the existing independence frameworks sufficiently address those risks surrounding things like shared management, right, between the attest entity and the non-attest entity, and shared performance evaluations and shared compensation structures, right, things that can kind of create those relationships where we might have some independence concerns. So what's going to be paramount here is ensuring that the non-attest entities are not able to influence professional judgment or audit quality for audit engagements, right? That is going to be essential for us. Additionally, PEAK, right, the AICPA's Professional Ethics Executive Committee, has also flagged gaps in the AICPA's Code of Professional Conduct relating to alternative practice structures and private equity, and they are also actively working on their own project as well. So what boards are going to need to do is try to just evaluate whether stricter independence rules are going to be necessary to protect the public trust, because independence is basically the cornerstone of the profession, right? Extremely, extremely important. But let's break down the next key area here, which is disclosure and public understanding. So the public relies on us, right? They rely on clear and accurate information to understand how CPA firms are operating, especially when attest firms share ownership or branding with non-attest entities in an alternative practice structure. So very important that we maintain that transparency so people understand. Private equity investments have sort of blurred those boundaries a little bit, and it makes transparency more important than ever. Experts highlight the need for clarity regarding which parts of the firm are CPA owned versus which parts are not, fully CPA owned. So what the state boards of accountancy are going to need to do here is consider requiring more prominent disclosures, improving client and consumer education for the public, and also clarifying the rules around the use of the CPA title. Advertising practices as well might also require increased scrutiny to ensure transparent communication about these different relationships. And then last, but certainly not least, we have regulatory oversight and enforcement. Boards of accountancy were originally designed to regulate firms that have much simpler structures and are operating in much clearer jurisdictional boundaries. But with APS models and private equity investments, now we're involving some very complex situations. We have multi-state operations, we have complex ownership webs, and that creates some potential oversight gaps as a result of that. Boards might need to update their regulatory approaches to keep pace with these developments, including revisiting potentially different models and enforcement mechanisms that maybe they weren't using in the past. Differences additionally among the state definition of the practice of public accountancy, right? That term, having different interpretations and definitions of that is also probably going to create some additional challenges and diversity in practice as well. Boards are going to need to have more detailed information from firms, including their principal place of business, where is their physical presence, what sort of jurisdictions are they operating in, just to ensure effective regulation across different jurisdictions. So another really, really important area there. So comments are due on this invitation to comment on January 31st of next year. So we still have a little bit of time. The task force is encouraging the state boards of accountancy as well as other key stakeholders to respond by the deadline. We also included the email where all of the comments need to be submitted in case you are someone at a state board of accountancy and you're watching this and you want to respond. So we want to make it as easy as possible for you to do so. I also wanted to do just a very quick shout out of our upcoming audit staff level training cohorts. We have our 2026 schedule finalized, which we are very excited about here at GLS. So if you are watching this and you are a manager or a partner and you're looking for some additional training for your staff, I would highly recommend these cohorts. Each level that you see on your screen is 16 credits of CPE, and it is super interactive. We have a really great variety of audit topics as well. They're also very highly rated. We have a near perfect net promoter score, which is something that we're very, very proud of. So if you're interested in learning more about our level training cohorts and how we can support your firm and your staff, we have included a QR code for you to easily scan. And that is all we have for today's blog. So if staying up to date and current with NASBA requirements is part of your role, definitely explore how GLS can help you kind of stay ahead of the curve with that. Also, if you are still in need of CPE before the end of this year, we have included another QR code for you here. We have lots of different courses in accounting, auditing. We have government and nonprofit A&A topics as well if you're in need of your yellow book requirements, as well as leadership and professional development. We have ethics, so lots of different content that we provide. So if you're interested in learning more, we have another QR code for your convenience. And once again, my name is Jaclyn Veno from Golosso Learning Solutions. Thank you so much for tuning into this blog, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.